Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm your host, Michelle Stern. I want to say welcome back to my subscribers and welcome and thank you very much to my new subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's to the bottom right of the video. And also remember to turn on notification as well. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to ask everyone at this point, please give the video a thumbs up from now on, please. Give the video a thumbs up. Share the video as well as feel free to leave your comments in the comments section. I want to thank everyone in advance for doing so. Congratulations, Jonah McFarland. You were the first to comment on my last video on Lisa Hannah. Yes, you did. Flowers to you. And everyone, going to ask you to give Jonah a big round of applause, please. Thank you, Jonah, and thank you to everyone who participated in this segment. So once again, we're back to the Don Anderson poll. And I know some of you are saying, again, I thought 411 done with the Don Anderson poll. She knows it's a fake poll. That. Why is she paying so much attention to it? I hear you, some of you, I read some of your comments, Yes, one of you say, but she sound like she believe that this thing is true. And the other one say, you notice it too? Yes, I read the comments. But let me explain something. And I hope you guys are listening now. And listen to me good. This poll, we're taking them at their word. And they went out there. It is true that if the pollster is unfair and wants to get particular results, from experience, they will know where to go to get that result. But guess what? They don't have full control over the responses that they get. So while they are getting a particular result, for argument's sake, they need Mark Golding to be up and they need the PNP to be up in terms of the poll. That's what they need. Those are the two things that they need to accomplish. So they'll go where they know they can get that result. But for the other questions that they ask, sometimes they reveal unexpected results. These results they end up publishing nonetheless, either because they did not notice and think that the effect it will have would bear out some point that they are trying to make, or they hope that we did notice that there is another interpretation to be put on the results. So we have to try and use these polls to understand what else the responses to the questions may be telling us. Now, you would have noticed that they put out what is usually the finale, the party standings. That's usually the last thing. That's what everybody is looking forward to. After 1 week, they put it out, which would suggest that the poll results are over. And so we put out that they are hiding the results because they could not have sent Don Anderson and pay him this bag of money. Send him to 63 constituencies who ask 12 questions in a 6 categories, right? Lo and behold, last night, while I was minding my own business with the TV on in front of me, there I was looking and them telling me, Mr. But wait, I did an answer poll that them I talk about. I don't even remember what it was they were saying because it wasn't very exciting. So they came out. So I wonder if they'll be coming out with more today, which makes me wonder, and I'm sure you must be wondering too. Why would they bring out the climax so early in the game? Is it that they were intending to end speaking about the polls and for whatever reason decide they need to dash out one or two? I don't know, but we're listening out. to see if they're going to be saying what the results were on the question that they ask about crime and unemployment and all those things. They must have asked a separate question to gauge what the responses were. So we wait to see if they release them. But I am troubling you today because there is a need to look more closely at the results of these poll responses that seems very confusing to people. I've heard somebody said, now this makes sense. Here's a subscriber who made the comment, Don Anderson think people stupid. This is not 70s, 80s, and 90s. We have information at our fingertips. Well, I made a little comment. That came from Carl Welsh. I made a little comment, but we can overlook mine. Look at the one below by Great Bill 9106. PNP been campaigning for years. JLP leader ahead, but party behind. What can go so? So what he's saying basically, and I saw it out there, I was looking for it, couldn't find it, so I'm going to get on with it and go by memory. Somebody out on social media said the same thing. In every respect, Andrew Holness is ahead. Ahead in favorability, ahead in terms of people thinking that he would do a better job, and so on. And yet, when they asked the people, how will you vote? They said they will vote PNP. And the right, of course, is saying that this don't make no sense. None at all. But what we are going to do today is look at the poll figures for ourselves to see if there's anything for us to discover. What do you say? You agree? Yes. So we are going to look at what generally is known as the party standings poll responses to a very curious question. Not the type of question that the RG or Gleaner Group would normally ask, but evidently they wanted Don Anderson to ask the question in this way. General elections are due to be called this year. If you go out to vote, which of the two main political parties are you most likely to vote for? Now, I say it is curious because they're not asking the people if the election were called today, right? How would you vote? No, they're asking them to think about the future and make a decision about what they intend to do in the future as opposed to what it is that they would do today. I would suggest to you that this particular question is not a party standing question. We cannot use this to determine the party standing because they did not ask them if the election were held today, meaning to say them need to imagine that the election are run and them going out there to vote or not to vote. That is what the party standings supposed to be. And this is asking about the future. So you cannot classify this as a party standing. The party standings is talking about what you would do today were there an election. And then you tell them, say me to go vote or me won't vote. There is no such thing as a party standing for something that is going to happen in the future. So the most that can be said about the responses is that the people are asked to look into the future and say how they believe they would vote at that future date without any context whatsoever. But we're going to use it nonetheless because even though they are looking into the future and predicting what they think they will do at that point without any context, without any consideration for what the conditions would be at that time, it nonetheless may be used for other purposes. So I'm going to ask you kindly to make a note of these figures. It says that the PNP, 32.6% of them said that they believe that they will more likely vote for the PNP. So those were the numbers of persons in this poll who were PNP voters. And the sample size was 1,033. When you calculate 32.6% of that number, what it says here is that 336 persons said they would have voted for the PNP. On the other hand, 29.6% said they would vote JLP. Those were the number of Labour Party supporters who were in this poll. They vote JLP. Now, when you do the calculation based on the 1,033 participants, then you get that there were 305 persons who said they would more than likely vote for the Labour Party. When you minus the 336 PNP from the 305 JLP, the difference is 31. So there were 31 more persons in that poll who said they would vote for PNP. Now, those who said they don't know how they would vote at that time, 18.4%. That's 190 of the participants. And those who said they are not likely to vote, 19.4%, or 200 of the participants. So in all, 390 of the participants said they don't know or they're more than likely will not vote. So what we have learned from this particular question is exactly how many PNP, how many JLP, how many swing voters, and how many persons who said they will not vote. More than likely they will not vote. That is what we've learned from this particular question, which gives us a total of 62.2% of those who said they intend to vote for either parties. Let us look at our first example, where the question was asked, which party do you believe is more committed to fighting corruption? And this was a question put to 1,033 respondents who participated in that survey or the poll. And 25.3% said JLP, 25.7% said PNP. So now the figures that we had before, where the respondents indicated that they would vote for either the PNP or the JLP. And this is where it now becomes interesting. Because when you look at the Jamaica Labour Party's figure, it is 29.6% who said they would vote for the Labour Party. But when they answer in this question, it is 25.3% who said that they believe the Labour Party is more committed to fighting corruption. What does that mean? It means that 4.3% of those who said they would vote for the Labour Party, they actually made a different response. Either they're not sure or none. You follow? Yes, because it's 29.6 and it's only 25.3 who said that they believe that the Labour Party is more committed. So the other 4.3 must have said neither the PNP or JLP or them not sure. You follow? When it comes to the PNP voters now, it's even worse because it was 32.6% who said they would most likely vote for the PNP. And yet, when the question was asked, which party do you believe is more committed to fighting corruption? It's only 25.7% who said the PNP. And that meant that 6.9% of those persons who indicated that they're PNP voters, 6.9% of them did not believe the PNP was committed to fighting corruption. So, 6.9% did not believe that the PNP was committed to fighting corruption, but only 4.3% of those who identify themselves as Labour Party voters who don't believe that the Labour Party is committed to fighting corruption. When you look at the difference, it is 2.6% more of the Labourites who believe that their party is more committed to fighting corruption. You follow what that is saying? Yes. So Marky G clearly is not making as much impression on the comrades. At least 6.9% of them seem not to be convinced that he is committed to fighting corruption. And this is very, very important because corruption, as you have heard, has been the main attack point of the risers. That's what they're going after, right? They are accusing the government of being corrupt, and that is what they're going into the election with and hoping to win the election with. And yet they have 6.9% of their own voters. They are not convinced that the risers are committed to fighting corruption. And that is significant. That is significant because they don't even hold power yet. And yet, a whopping 6.9% of the PNP voters do not believe that the PNP is committed to fighting corruption. We're not talking about the past, we're talking about the present, right? It is not what the party was doing in the past, it's what the party is doing now. And that is interesting, very interesting indeed. And remember, the Labour Party not started run those ads yet to talk about the incestuous relationship between DBNG and the PNP government of the 1990s. You're going to hear a lot about FinSAC, right? A lot of emotional things about FinSAC to remind the people who were old enough to remember those days about what happened. And it will certainly turn off some of the PNP voters when they realize, because they don't know that Marky G, them G, was involved in all of that to the extent of the evidence that the Labour Party going to be bringing in those ads. Follow? Yes. So both sides will attempt to turn each other voters off, but that kind of an attack is likely to affect the PNP more when you have 6.9%. Don't believe that the leadership of the People's National Party is committed to fighting corruption. When we look at the question, how would you rate your own personal situation currently? And recall that Don Anderson said in the poll that those persons who are lining up behind the respective parties were responding accordingly. So those who were Labour Party supporters, they would have said for this question, most of them, that the situation is excellent and good. And the PNP side, trying to make the Labour Party look bad, they would say poor and very poor. So let us now examine the poor and very poor, because there is where I think we get most information. Now, when you add up poor and very poor, you get 23.6%. Those were the numbers in the poll who said that their personal situation is poor and very poor, and that is low from where it's been coming from way back when. Now, the average said 46.5, and the total of 29.9% said excellent and good, right? But I believe it's the poor and very poor which gives us more information. When we look at those who indicated that they would vote PNP, 32.6%, and you take out of that those who say they are poor and very poor, 23.6%, what you get is 9% of those persons indicating they would vote PNP who never said that their condition was poor or very poor. They gave other responses, right? And that is what we've learned from this poll question. Now, what this means is that whenever you hear these risers on social media talking about people suffering, those on the political platform talking about the sufferation of the people, 9% of those who identify themselves as PNP voters, they did not fall into that category, which is perhaps the reason why most of them will never say, I am suffering. you will always hear them say it is other people who are suffering. Right? And now you see the reason why. Now we need to bear in mind that we do not know if even one of that 32.6% said that their conditions were poor or very poor. We're simply making the assumption because of what it was that Don Anderson himself said. And then pointing out that were we to assume that the poor and very poor were comrades who said so, then at least 28%, that's what that 9% represents, 28% of those who said that they would vote PNP, they are not suffering based upon the assumptions that we are making. When it comes to the persons who are not poor or very poor, that could even be higher. But what we have done with this calculation is show you what the minimum is. That at least 28% of those who said they intend to vote PNP, they are not suffering. So when it comes to how you would rate the current economic conditions in the country, you have excellent and good, amounting to 23.1%, which is lower than the number of persons who said they're going to vote JLP, which is 29.6%. What does this mean? It means that 6.5% of the Labour Party supporters gave other responses, either that they think the economic situation is average, poor, or very poor. When it comes now to the poor and very poor, let us look now at what that total is. That total is 38.4%. So again, it shows that it's not only PNP people would have put forward this response. There were others too, 5.8% of others who said that they believe that the economic conditions are average, poor, or very poor. So that is that. So when it comes to the election campaign, 6.5%, that's a high number. 22% of those who indicated that they intend to vote for the Labour Party, they are not in the category of excellent or good. And that is something that the Labour Party would want to be concerned about in terms of how they're going to pitch their campaign when the election is called. They have to give these people hope, because without that, they may be reluctant to come out and vote. Follow what I'm saying? Yes. And this election may well be the battle of the bases, so you cannot afford that your rockstone Labour right them don't feel like they should come out and vote because they don't see anything in it for them. So that is how they would have to craft their own messaging in the campaign. The PNP, of course, will be encouraged by these numbers and want to pour as much cold water on what the Labour Party will be claiming to be their achievements economically. That is the main thing that the Labour Party has going for it, the main one in terms of their achievements. And we can expect that the Labour Party will counter by claiming that the PNP were not good managers. And with an amateur, a man who is there telling the people, can you imagine that him this come in a representation politics the other day and look, me now party leader and me now leader of opposition, as if that is something that the people ought to be impressed with. The fact that he elevated himself, or the people in the party thought that he is the man to lead them to victory. And when I said it's a labor rights, they must be marbling like hell. How the hell them could see somebody like a Lisa Hanna and go put this clown to lead the party? Well, they did not. They cheated. And that's why he's in the position that he's in. Right? Lining up the PNP to lose the next election and very possibly to lose some of the seats that we already have. So the fact that you have a government with 9 years experience straight years experience as government, and the country has seen lower crime rates, lower murder. Lower crime has always been the case. The crime has been going down year after year for about 20 years now. But the murder was where we had the problem. And because the murder rates were not coming down, people never really believed that the other crimes were coming down too. Well, now the figures are coming in the right direction that we wanted to, and we may end up with less than 800 or 800 to 900 murders this year. And that is significant. We haven't seen those figures since, I think, the 90s, or maybe the early part of this century. So for the people to be asked to take somebody who never led anything in all his born days except the People's National Party, and him not doing a good job at it, and he has no experience whatsoever as government except as a minister of justice, and expect him to lead the country into economic development. That is something that the Labour Party is going to, I'm sure, hammer home and remind the people of this country, particularly those persons who are uncommitted, 18% of them, that you can't give up sure if you're unsure. Right? You say that Andrew thief, Andrew this and that, and him will come tell you same of clean hand and clean heart. How you know that? You never see him at work. So I'm sure that they will be playing on the fact that he has little political experience and even less managerial experience, and therefore should not be trusted with the country, especially when we made so many gains. Yes, that's what I anticipate. The Labour Party's campaign will be centered around as well. When it comes to the question, do you feel that the government is doing enough to reduce poverty and unemployment? Do you feel? So they're asking them for an opinion, and it's a perception because I'm asking about their feelings, right? This, I'm sure those risers running the PNP are going to be looking to this now to hammer home in their messaging. 26.9% said yes, they think the government is doing enough to reduce poverty and unemployment. And 61.7% said no, which means that it's not only PNP voters alone would be saying that they don't think the government is doing enough. Some of the others who are said they're not voting, and those who said that they're not sure, they would have been in this category, and this may well be why they are not sure. So this is tremendous opportunity for opposition to hammer home, and it is also a tremendous opportunity for the government to win that 18.4%. Why do I say so? When you look at the figures, you see, when you look at those who said that they'll vote for the Labour Party in future, it is 2.7% of the Labour Party voters, let's call them that. They did not respond and say yes. So they either responded by saying no or that they don't know. And therefore, the government now has work to do if they want to get back those Labour Party supporters. Because if they think that the government is not doing enough to reduce poverty and unemployment, come election day, when the activists and the runners go out for them, they may not find them. So the government will have to do something quick and fast. And they're going to have to do it now and continuously right up until the night before the election, when they can't run no more ads, as far as I recall how the law go. They cannot ease up on this particular one, because here now is where they're going to get that 18.4%. This is where the vexation is, in my view. Now, what it is the government can do? The government will argue that they have done a lot. Unemployment, for goodness' sake, came all the way down to 3.7% in March. And the poverty, I don't know, them said that the poverty in 2020 23 went all the way down to 8.2%. Now, some people will be skeptical, but remember, you had the increases in the minimum wage, and at the same time, the unemployment rate was going down as well. So, therefore, it is not implausible that the rate indeed had gone down to 8.2%. What it is for last year, we do not know, and therefore, that report more or less is irrelevant, but we just use that since that's the last data. So, since this is a matter of perception, this is what the people perceive, that the government is not doing enough to reduce poverty and unemployment. When it is indeed reducing, it means that the information is not getting out there. Either that, or when the people look at their environment, they see a lot of unemployed people. Maybe they see some suffering people on the roads, they see more people begging and that sort of thing. And that would suggest that the economy not going right. And they may not be hearing what initiative the government is coming with to improve the lot of the people of the country. We're about 6 weeks away from the Prime Minister calling the next general elections. And as such, there isn't time to do much. But the government does have statistics on its side. They will argue, I'm sure, that they have already done the heavy lifting. And so it's for them to start to run those ads, focusing on the fact that poverty has reduced, unemployment has reduced, and show samples of it. If they can go where they can go and find places that were run down and show what it is now and that sort of thing, that would show the people that the government did take steps. It's just that they were tired in telling them about it. So, what is required here is public education between now and the night before the election. At this point, not ads that are talking about the achievements. That is not going to resonate with these people. 61.7% is a whole number, whole heap of people. And therefore, the government is going to have to focus on showing these people and convincing them that indeed the government has been doing a lot. And it is for them to point out all the achievements that they have made in this particular area to reduce poverty and unemployment and focus on those things to change the minds of these people. If they make the mistake and go with ads that is showing their achievements, that will not resonate with these people at all, because poverty and unemployment is what they are concerned about. Not achievement. That don't affect the price of cheese. You see what I'm saying? Yes, so these polls are useful in terms of the information that they give. And it is a foolish government and foolish opposition who don't act when they see these results. Whether them go say yes or no, you must act. Better safe than sorry. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. So one would expect the opposition, the risers in the PNP, to be hammering home this point and reminding people that the government not do nothing for reduce poverty and unemployment. And the government, of course, I expect to clap back and say that when they were there, they weren't any better. Matter of fact, the people were struggling more. That's why they vote them out. I expect that kind of to and fro. But for the government, if you want him third term as Andrew, you have to look on this figure here. This is where the key is. You can convince them people the amount of things you did to reduce poverty and unemployment, and them 18% of the people and would sit down on the fence, I got jump up on your side. So leading up to the election, focus on convincing these people about what you have done, and your work will be much easier by the time the campaign starts. That is my argument. Then the respondents were asked to name 5 cabinet ministers. They apparently want to know which one of these ministers are most visible. On Labour Party side, it's Andrew Holness. 53% of the time they were able to name him. I suppose the respondents understand him to be the Prime Minister, head of the cabinet, but they may not see him as a cabinet minister, and that could be the reason why the number is so low. Correspondingly, the person who heads the list on the opposition side is Mark Golding. He has been hogging the portfolios in the parliament on the opposition benches. We've said that many times before. Now, why is it that he's not more recognized as an opposition spokesperson? Perhaps for the same reason as Andrew Holness. Many persons may see him as opposition leader and not recognize him necessarily as an opposition spokesperson, which is perhaps the reason why only 57% of them named him. The most remarkable thing about this segment is Lisa Hanna, 36%, which means that if we assume that all of the PNP people named her, then there were other persons who named her as well outside of the PNP as a shadow spokesperson. But of course, she's not. But the even more remarkable thing, in my view, is Damian Crawford. Why is this remarkable? First of all, the Minister of Finance is usually the most popular of all the ministers. It's one of the areas in which the public has a personal interest, right? And the governments, all governments, make it policy to do whatever they can for education because education is seen as that area in which we can improve the lot of people. And he has this very, very important portfolio he's shadowing, but he's in the Senate. But of the 1,033 respondents in this poll, only 10% of them recognized him as one of 5 opposition spokespersons. They named him 10%, bearing in mind that is 32.6% of the respondents said they was going to vote PNP. And if we assume that all of the persons who recognize him, and we're just making an assumption to simplify the thing, were PNP people, then it meant that a minimum of 22.6% of those PNP voters recognized Damian Crawford as one of the spokesperson on the opposition benches. A portfolio that is very popular and important, and he is very visible with it. So how it is that only 10% of the people say, oh yeah, and Damian Crawford. These are the people who would be visible, highly visible to the public. They see them on TV, them hear them on the radio, them read about them in the newspaper, people talking about them on social media. That is why they would come readily to mind. And Damian Crawford is at number 7 with 10%. Why else is it significant? Damian Crawford is one of those persons who is ambitious and want to lead the PNP. And this is, for me, a shocker. And what it really demonstrates is that he is not foremost in the minds of the Jamaican people. And most importantly, clearly not foremost in the minds of the comrades who intend, they said, to vote for the PNP. Damian, it seems he has lost his shine. The final question which was asked on Friday was whether or not the respondents think that Portmore should become Jamaica's 15th parish. 16.2% of the respondents said they don't know whether it should. According to the report by RGR Online, 50.9% of those polled do not support the move to make Portmore the 15th parish. So that now is more than even the 32.6% of the persons who said they're going to vote PNP. So it's not only those who are saying they're going to vote PNP alone who are objecting to Portmore becoming the 15th parish. You must remember sentiments are attached to these things. Now, 32.9% are in favor, again, with only 29.6% of persons saying they went to vote JLP. This is an indication that it was not only JLP supporters who supported the move, but there were a few others who did as well. So, this is, if this is going to be an issue in the elections coming up, I don't think that any voters will be moved by it, except maybe those in Portmore. How many of those persons, though, in the 50.9% believe that Portmore should not be a parish, who actually live in Portmore? That the poll did not say, but it would be wise for the government to pay attention to it, because it's possible that them risers will attempt to use this as a rallying, telling the people that they don't intend to make it so. But for me, that would be a dreadful risk, because to the extent that there are 10 or 15 or 20 people or maybe 500 people in Portmore who think that, they want Portmore to be a parish, for them to go and campaign on this would be a hell of a risk, because what it may do is say to those people, if I vote PMP, then I will not get parish status, and therefore they may end up losing votes rather than gaining anything. And the only persons that this would affect are those persons in Portmore. They need to tread softly. If the government go and do a little canvassing and realize that the majority of the people want it, then they have nothing to lose by going out there and saying that they're going to make it happen, and that the opposition will not. And that again could cause the PNP to lose votes in Portmore. There are 3 seats over there. Fitzjackson, you have East Central with Terry Long versus Raymond Price. Then you have Big Rob and Dr. Alfred Dawes battling out for Southeast St. Catherine. The question for the Labour Party would be, though, those persons who are opposed, how opposed are they to it? Are they prepared to vote against the Labour Party, which means the Labour Party would end up losing votes just to prevent it from happening? Well, that is what they will have to determine, and we look forward to seeing how the two parties campaign on the issue. I fully anticipate that those risers will be claiming that the only reason why they want to turn Portmore into a parish is to protect Terry Long, when the argument may be that the only reason why they oppose the boundaries is because Horizon Park, were full of Labourite, about 2,500 Labourite votes are in Horizon Park. Horizon Park is going to be part of South St. Catherine, which is where Fitzjackson is, and his seat will be in jeopardy. So either party stands to gain or lose votes, depending on where the people are in Portmore on this issue. And their votes is likely to be seen as a referendum on whether or not Portmore should become the 15th parish. Anyway, folks, let me leave it here for today. I hope you found the information provided and the analysis interesting. And I want to thank you for joining me, for sharing, liking, subscribing, and leaving your comments in the comments section. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.